Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronia, and in today's video I want to talk about what to do if you want to try a no spend month. Now, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because you may see many people, especially on social media, talking about no spend months if they want to save more money. However, when it does come to no spend months, this may not always work for you, and so what I want to do in this video is really talk through the scenarios that you may want to do a no spend month versus when you might not want to do a no spend month, and really just explain my own personal opinion when it comes to no spend months too. So as always, I'm sure you guys know me by now, but sometimes I love to just look at the definitions first and then of course talk about my own personal opinion. So that's exactly what we are going to do. So instead of Wikipedia this time, I've actually got a definition from Forbes, and essentially what Forbes says is that during a no spend month, you don't spend on anything except essential items like food and housing. Definitions of essential spending vary, but the goal of imposing this discipline is simple. Take 1 month off from your usual spending habits and try to rack up a significant amount of savings in the bank. So essentially what a no spend challenge or no spend month is, however you want to put it, is the fact that you are only going to be focusing on just spending on your essential bills and then nothing else. And so the money that you would have spent on non-discretionary things, whether that be eating out or entertainment or anything like that, with that money you would essentially be using that to save for something. And so this pretty much links into my first point when it comes to thinking about doing a no spend month, is to really figure out why you want to do a no spend month in the first place. Now, the reason why I mentioned this point and why I think it's actually really important is because in order for you to actually succeed in the no spend month, you need to figure out how it's going to benefit you, and you also need to figure out whether you see it as a challenge versus if it's something that you're trying to use to fix your problem. Now, the reason why I wanted to mention this point is because when it comes to doing a no spend challenge, one of the mistakes that I tend to see is with some people, the reason why they're doing a no spend challenge is because they think it's going to cure their overspending, when in reality, to be honest, that could probably be further from the truth. And what I mean by that is when it comes to a no spend month, that's not necessarily going to help you fix the root problem. Now, at this moment you may be thinking, Auntie V, I'm pretty sure a no spend month is to help me stop spending my money. So let me try and illustrate this with another example. So as an example, let's say that you're trying to lose weight, right? And so what you're going to be thinking about is, okay, can I change my diet? But what you might be thinking is, if you go on one of these crash diets, maybe there's a juice diet that you really want to try out, maybe you just want to stick to water and not eat anything at all, and you decide to do those diets, what you might find is that you haven't necessarily dealt with the root problem. So rather than just changing your lifestyle and maybe figuring out why you may have been overeating, what you're essentially doing is trying to cover the bruise with a plaster and thinking that everything is going to be okay, when in reality those crash diets probably haven't fixed the problem. So let's say that you decide to do the juice diet. Day 1 is all okay, you're feeling great. Day 2, you're feeling okay, maybe not as great as the first day, but then fast forward to the end of the week, maybe you start to have cravings. Maybe you're passing all of these restaurants or different stores and you're now feeling really bad because you've restricted yourself from eating any of these things. And when your friends ask you to go out to another restaurant, all you can literally have is maybe a glass of water and then that's it. And you're basically just watching all of your friends munching away, eating this nice food, and in the back of your head, all you want to do is just eat up everything. And so what might end up happening is by the time it gets to the second week, you are tired, you are frustrated, you feel so restricted, and you're just really upset. And so what happens is that instead of actually just continuing with the juice diet, what you've now decided to do is go straight to McDonald's, and you've pretty much just bought the whole restaurant rather than buying just one meal because you've restricted yourself so much. And the reason why I wanted to use this as an example is because I have done this same thing myself, and I've realized that it just doesn't work for me, because what I end up doing is I just end up binging even more and eating even more than I did in the first place. And so this is really why I wanted to use that as an example, because the same thing could be happening when it comes to a no spend month. So if you are using a no spend month to try and fix the problem of you overspending, it's probably not going to work. However, if you are already aware of your spending habits and you maybe just see a no spend month as a challenge, well then that potentially could work. And if that's something that you genuinely like doing, well then that's a completely different story. Now, if you want to learn more about the ways of fixing the problem of overspending without having to do a no spend month, then definitely check out my free training, because essentially what I do is give you the exact steps that I took to manage my money where I can still spend my money freely without overspending, which has then enabled me to save and invest my money so that I can also work towards my other financial goals. So definitely check out my free training if you haven't already. I will of course link it up here for you and in the description below. But what I'm trying trying to say is that it's really important to understand why you want to do a no spend month so that you can figure out whether it's something that you want to do as a challenge and if it's going to be fun for you, or if it's the complete opposite where you actually haven't dealt with the root problem, and so by doing a no spend month it might not end up helping you. In fact, it may make things worse. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Plus, I'm sure you know it's free. Now, the next thing I want to share with you when it comes to doing a no spend month, especially if you realize that you may struggle with it, is to maybe consider doing other alternatives. Now, what I mean by this is when we go back to the definition of what maybe a no spend month is, what you're basically doing is just focusing on paying your essential bills and not paying for any other discretionary spending. And by essential bills, it could be things like your rent, your mortgage, your utility bills, transport, etc. So when it comes to alternatives, this is exactly what myself and my own coaching clients do as well. So rather than completely cutting down on everything, what we do is we pretty much evaluate what we value versus what we don't value. And what that means is basically we will go through the budget and really walk through every single category, so every discretionary spending, and question ourselves whether it's actually something that's serving us purpose or whether it's something that we just don't really value and we can get rid of. So as a quick example, in my case, I'm not the biggest fan of eating out at restaurants every single time. It's just not something I value very much, and it's just something I'm not too bothered about because I just like to be at home all the time. Yes, I know I'm weird, but what that means is that I don't mind not spending a lot of money on eating out because it's not necessarily something I value. Compared to actually eating at home and doing things at home and maybe having date nights at home, what I would be doing is more so spending money on that area where I'm able to actually cook at home because that's something that I enjoy, rather than spending a lot of money on eating out because that's not necessarily something I value very much. And that is why you always see me saying that I always eat at home, because I enjoy eating at home. Guys, rather than going out to eat, you can eat at home. I am telling you, if you go to M&S or Tesco, there are some premium dine for two deals and they are affordable, and the taste. So rather than completely cutting out all your discretionary spending, what you could do is just look for alternatives and really question whether something that you're spending money on is something that you value. If it's not something that you don't necessarily value, then all you need to do is just get rid of it and then use that money for something else. Now, the next tip I want to give when it comes to either just doing a no spend month or choosing not to do a no spend month and doing something alternative is to really know your numbers through your budget. Now, I know you're probably thinking, Auntie V, budgeting again, when are you going to stop? But please hear me out. The reason why I keep mentioning this is because it's going to be one of the biggest foundations you can set for yourself, particularly when it comes to spending money. Because whether you choose to do a no spend month or not, it's going to be really important for you to understand your numbers and understand what is essential versus non-essential. So for example, if you're trying to do a no spend month, well, you need to calculate exactly how much your essential bills come to so that you can figure out, okay, what is my income minus my essential bills? Then once you figure that out, you can now say, okay, the rest of that money is going to be saved. Whereas if you would like to do an alternative, and rather than completely cut down on all of your spending, you maybe just want to look at some areas and reduce that. But what you'll want to do is at least have that budget so that you can look through all of the different areas and see how much you're spending on those areas and figure out whether you may want to get rid of it if it's not serving you any purpose, or if you would want to keep it. And if you really want to figure out how much you could potentially save, a budget is going to help you do that, because again, you're going to be very clear on your numbers. And for me, knowing my numbers and understanding what I value really helped me pay off my debt. So I tried to completely restrict myself and cut everything off when I was paying off my debt. And for me, it didn't work because I felt really, really frustrated and I felt very restricted. But what I did is essentially just go through and see if there are things that maybe I could reduce, such as my eating out budget, for example. And because I was able to do that, I was still able to at least do some things and enjoy a bit of my spending, whilst also being able to put as much money towards my debt at the same time. Now, if you've maybe struggled with budgeting in the past and you're maybe new to my channel, then you might not know, but I have so many more different budgeting videos for literally every budgeting method there is. So make sure you do check them out if you haven't already. I will link one up here for you and in the description below. Now, the next tip I want to give you when it comes to doing a no spend month or deciding not to do a no spend month is to just make sure that you're prioritizing your savings and investments first, so that you don't necessarily feel guilty about spending spending your money after. Now, the reason why I wanted to mention this is because myself and also the women that I work with, we don't necessarily do no spend months because we are already able to prioritize our savings and investments first. And so what that means is that because we're already working towards our financial goals and we've made that a priority, the rest of the money can literally be spent and we never feel guilty about it. So for me, I don't necessarily need to do a no spend month because I already know exactly how much I should be saving and investing to reach my financial goals. And so if I'm already doing that and I'm paying myself first, what that means is that any other money I have left, I can literally spend it how I like because I've already prioritized my financial future first. So whether you decide to do a no spend month or you don't decide to do it, really just start building the habit of actually paying yourself first by prioritizing those savings and investments so that the rest of the money that you have can be spent if you do want to spend it. Now, if you would like further support when it comes to figuring out how much you should be saving and investing in the first place so that you are able to still spend your money guilt-free, then definitely check out my one-to-one coaching program, because what we will do is essentially go through all of your finances and figure out exactly how much you need to be saving and investing for your future financial goals, whilst also helping you to actually spend your money and enjoy the journey too. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. You can book a free interest call with me. I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. But by building the habits of paying yourself first and prioritizing your savings and investments, that's going to help you regardless of whether you choose to do a no spend month or not. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, are you planning to do a no spend month this year? I do post every Tuesday and Friday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.